Hey everybody, welcome. This is your next mini lesson on revision. Revision is something that gets a bad rap sometimes and also gets completely ignored much of the time. In college, especially because, of course, we all are operating on deadlines and, typically we're not finishing an assignment in advance enough to give it a really good shot at revision. But it is one of the key elements of bettering your writing is learning to carve out time for revision. So let's take a look at some ideas here. One is to define revision, and revision is not the same as proofreading. And that, of course, is something that most people will take at least a little time to proofread or will run spell and grammar check or something, use Grammarly, whatever the case may be. But revision is really more than that. So when you hear the word revision, I want you to first think of these, what we call the big picture items. So when you're revising, you're going back over a piece of writing to make sure that it is the best that it can be. And the big picture items include unity, coherence, and development. We're going to get definitions for those in a second. Now, part of revision is, of course, the editing or proofreading that occurs typically towards the end, where you are looking for surface errors. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. So what is unity? All writing should be unified around a single main point. So when we are revising for unity, we're making sure that we haven't gone off on any tangents, that everything that is in the work of writing, whether it's a paragraph or a essay or a chapter or a book, when we revise for unity, we're making sure that we haven't strayed off topic. Now, sometimes this is hard because what it means is you've written a lot and now you have to get rid of some of it because it's off topic. But it is worth it to make your writing better, to make sure that it is unified around a single topic. The next big picture item is coherence. And the simplest definition of that is, does it make sense? So we think of order, right? The order that we write things in. Is it logical? Now, there are several different ways that something can be logical in terms of order. If I'm telling a story about events, then I need to follow chronological order. If I'm describing something that exists, then I need to use some sort of spatial order. If I'm describing a person, for example, you typically start with their face and work your way out from there. But a lot of things fall into what we call, for lack of a better term, order of importance. And you've got some decisions to make when you're writing things in order of importance. For one thing, do you start with the most important or the least important? Kind of depends on what your goal is. In newspaper stories, for example, or anything that you see on the news, they always lead with the most important or the most vital information and then work out into the lesser important details. In an essay, depending on how long it is, you might want that punch to come at the end instead of at the beginning. So order of importance is a little bit tricky, but it is up to the writer to determine what is more important than something else. And how we convey that to the reader helps us make sure that they know what our logic is. So what it might mean when you're revising for coherence is maybe you just need to swap the order around, or maybe you need to add additional words like transitions, phrases that kind of help guide the reader. The biggest piece of advice I have for revising for coherence is to have someone else read it. Of course, it makes sense to you because you wrote it. So having someone else take a look at it can really help with that. Development is next. And it just means, is there enough detail to fully prove the point? In assigned writing, the reality is that development is about how long it is. So if you do fall short of a requirement, then what do you need to do? Do you need more interpretation or do you need more evidence from research? So sometimes when you're revising for development, you have to add to what's already there. Whereas when you're revising for Unity, sometimes you have to take things away that are already there. So it's kind of two sides of the same coin. So then we come to editing and proofreading. So we know proofreading is checking for errors in grammar, punctuation, and usage. There are plenty of electronic tools to help you. Microsoft Word, of course, has its own spell and grammar check. Grammarly, of course, is provided to post students, and I am a big proponent of that. This is another place where having a friend or family member, any other human besides yourself, help you proofread is a great idea. If you are left to your own devices and you need to proofread it yourself, I highly recommend taking an electronic document and printing it out. It is a lot easier to catch our mistakes when we are looking at a piece of paper for some reason. And there's lots of really cool techniques and tricks and things that you can do. For sure, you need to give yourself time between a first draft, revision, and proofreading. And that is sometimes hard to do. But even if you're on a very tight deadline, even taking 15, 20, 30 minutes away from it to do something else, listen to some music, clean the room, whatever the case may be, it's going to be helpful for you. So with those tools, you too can create excellent revision and your papers will automatically improve.